Now, our Kodak moments. I've been catching up with the regional boss of Kodak. Now, he's Lois Lebegue. He covers Asia, Latin America, the Middle East and Africa for Kodak. It's a company we know had enormous challenges. It was a photographic printing company. Digital cameras destroyed that industry, and in 2012 Kodak filed for bankruptcy. And that, we thought, was that. But no, Kodak is rising from the ashes. Fourth quarter of last year, it made its first profit since coming out of bankruptcy. It's getting into the printing business, it's getting into the green printing business, and as we'll hear now, it's also in the movie business.
Business Breakfast fan?
Follow us on Facebook.
So Kodak is, I'll use your phrase, transforming itself into a technology company focused on printing, and this is all part of that. Another part of your business here in the UAE is, of course, movie film. The Star Wars movie was shot here a year ago. We're going to be seeing it in cinemas. And so many of the big movie directors are still shooting on Kodak film. J.J. Abrams, Star Wars, Chris Nolan is using it, Tarantino is using it. Why?
I mean, it's a great question, and film is a technology that is in Kodak history for more than 100 years. And by the way, the technology that we're using today in print are coming from the technology we developed on film. But when you look at film versus the digital shooting and capturing for images, film has a lot more capacities in terms of creating an ambience, creating an image. People like, the movie like The Grand Budapest Hotel. From Wes Anderson. Wes Anderson said, I would not be able to shoot with the look and feel that I wanted on digital. Take Boyhood from Richard Linklater. Impossible to shoot on digital over 10 years. Because, the first version of digital you will shoot will never look the same as the last version, and, transferring this on more modern technologies would be a nightmare. Just to give you a quote from Chris Nolan that talks about it much better than I do, Christopher Nolan says, digital is plywood, film is oak. I think that I can't say better than him.
So let's look at where Kodak is now. I was looking at your recent numbers. The good news in the Wall Street Journal at the back end of last year was a headline that you must have liked. First profitable quarter since bankruptcy for Kodak. I'm sure there was lots of clinking of glasses at that. But then the first quarter of this year, they're not so good. Back to a first quarter loss, revenue falling. So is Kodak out of the woods yet?
The recent history of Kodak has been ups and downs, and we had a lot of difficulties due to strategic choices that were made 10 years ago, due to the fact that film disappeared much faster than we expected. We invented digital cameras in 1975 and never been able to make something with it in the subsequent years. What we see today is we see a company that has refocused totally his business on segments that are much more profitable. It's true that the last quarter of 2014 was a good quarter for us. It's normal that our first quarters of the year are less good because Kodak still have a seasonalization of its revenue and earnings that are more in the second half of the year. So we are very much on track, probably a little bit better for Q1 than what we expected. And the company is very much recovered now compared to where we were in the recent past.
Well, let's look at those numbers and the comments from Jeff Clark, the chief executive. The print systems, which is the biggest bit of the company now, revenue was down, I think, 12% there. And Jeff Clark said it was partly due to the strong dollar, partly due to competitive pricing pressures. Those competitive pricing pressures are not going to go away. The dollar may become a bit weaker, but the dynamics of this industry, that in many ways it's a commoditized industry, they're not going to go away. You've been with Kodak 24 years. You know this better than I, surely.
Absolutely. It's true that, on a year-over-year basis, the dollar and the exchange rate around the world has been a hit for all American companies, and that is something that is something we cannot control. However, the trends of the markets are better than what we saw in the past. Again, competitive pricing exists, but our solutions and technologies are today enabling us step by step to take a much more stronger leadership position. Let me give you an example. You're talking about the mainstream of our revenue, which is print systems. In Dubai, as an example, we are transforming the industry from a system, from some technologies that were very demanding in terms of chemicals and water and electricity, to products that are much more environment friendly, that doesn't need any water, doesn't need any chemicals, doesn't need recycling of those materials. This is a technology that is growing 200% year over year around the world, and it's taking us much better than what the competition is proposing. Same for digital printing. That is a different segment where we are seeing a lot of progress in the company. The company is really geared towards a successful year. We are growing without the exchange rate impact. Our revenue is very stable, slightly growing, and our profitability has improved in terms of operational profitability.
Let's look at what happens next. You talk about being a company focused on R&D, research and development. And one phrase I picked up on, you say you're focused on creating breakthrough products. That sounds interesting. Movie film, for all it's beautiful and romantic, is not a breakthrough product that's going to be the future of Kodak. It's a nice to have, but it's not going to be driving your revenues and profitability. So what are the breakthrough products that we're going to hear about in 2016, 17, 18 and beyond?
I think the breakthrough technologies that we have developed very recently and we're continuing to develop are all coming from the film technology that is more than 100 years ago, or 100 years old. However, this film industry that we're talking about is less than 10% of our revenue and earnings today. Kodak core businesses are in publishing, printing, packaging, and today what we're seeing technologies that, as an example, as we said, is enabling Massar to print a personalized newspaper, is enabling our customers around the world to print a personalized book of 300 pages. Time for us to take a deep breath. The book is printed. But also, and even more important for the future, what Kodak technologies are enabling today and tomorrow is the capacity to print packaging of goods and food in a much brighter way, in a much more environment-friendly way than in the past, and the capacity to also personalize them to enable the brands to communicate one-to-one with their users, which is a segment that will grow tremendously, and where Kodak has a leadership position already. And even further down in the future, touchscreens. Our printing technology is enabling us to revolutionize the way we produce touchscreens for smartphones, tablets, and TVs. And this is coming this year. So it's a very exciting future for us in terms of breakthrough technologies.
Just before we wrap up, I want to talk a little bit about culture, corporate culture. You're 24 years with Kodak. When you joined, the company was king of the hill, one of the champions of the global economy. Then, of course, it had its challenges. What lessons have you learned, and what lessons can you share with us about some of the strategic mistakes that were made that you saw from the inside? And then some of the lessons from the pain of the bankruptcy and the turnaround and reinventing a company. I mean, you're living a Harvard Business School case study here, aren't you? You're part of business history in the making.
No, absolutely, and we reflect quite often on that, and that's one of the lessons that we learn. The lesson that we learn on this is, first of all, that I would share is when the market is evolving and new technologies are coming, you should not deny them. And that's for me a very typical case of the digital cameras that Kodak invented in 1975 and to some extent denied in terms of evolution and the impact on what was our absolute mainstream product, film. So don't deny that markets and technologies are evolving, and be careful that you're not leapfrogged. The second thing is you need a lot of resilience and resistance and courage to transform a company that was that big and that successful in something that is more nimble, more adaptable, and whose focus is very different than where we were to in the past. And I think that for that, people and people that you keep in the company are probably, with the technologies that you develop, the biggest assets. So what I learned is take care of people.
How does the story end? What's Kodak going to look like in another 24 years' time?
I wish I can tell you, and I don't know if I will see it. However, I believe with the technologies that we have developed so far and the technologies that we're continuing to develop, I believe Kodak will be a company that will continue to be in the balance between consumer words and business words. Is a company that will be more and more focused on sustainability solutions, more focused on creating, as we're doing today, breakthrough solutions and technologies, and that will continue to be a very global company. As I was explaining to you, I'm managing 131 countries in the world. We do business in probably 170 or 180 countries as we speak today. We made investments very early. We are in Dubai since 1978, as an example. And for us, continuing to be a company that is global, continue to be a company that is innovating in sustainability solutions and being very, very close to our customers.